Mommy, why am I not on the wall? My 7-year-old son stood in front of his grandmother's photo display, his small finger pointing at the empty space where his picture should have been. The wall was covered with school photos of grandchildren, each one mounted in a beautiful frame, each one displayed with obvious pride. Sophie in a gilded gold frame, Tyler in elegant silver, Emma in pristine white, baby Olivia in a frame decorated with pink flowers. But my son's photo was nowhere to be seen. "Where is my picture?" he asked again, his voice smaller this time, confused. "Grandma has everyone else. Why does she not have me?" I looked at my mother-in-law, Helen, waiting for her explanation. She was sitting on the couch, pretending to be absorbed in a magazine, as if she had not heard the question that was breaking my son's heart. "Helen," I said, my voice tight. "Mason is asking about his photo." She finally looked up, her expression carefully neutral. "Oh, that. The frame broke, sweetheart. I have been meaning to fix it." "When did it break?" Mason asked. "A while ago. But do not worry. I will get it fixed soon." I watched my son's face as he processed this information. He wanted to believe her. He wanted to think that his grandmother loved him as much as she loved his cousins, that his absence from the wall was just a temporary problem that would be solved soon. But I knew the truth. That frame had been broken for 2 years. Let me start from the beginning. My name is Jennifer Walsh. I am 33 years old, and I have been married to my husband Kevin for 8 years. We have one child, a wonderful boy named Mason who is 7 years old. He has sandy blonde hair that refuses to stay neat no matter how much I comb it, and green eyes that light up when he smiles, and a heart so big it sometimes seems too large for his small body. Mason is the kind of child who notices things. Details that other children might overlook, he sees clearly. He pays attention to how people treat him, to whether promises are kept, to the small signs that indicate where he stands in someone's affections. This quality makes him incredibly perceptive, but it also makes him vulnerable. He feels slights deeply, even when adults try to hide them. My mother-in-law, Helen Crawford, is a woman of appearances. Her house is always immaculate, decorated with careful attention to detail. Every pillow is fluffed, every surface dusted, every flower arrangement fresh. Her garden is magazine-worthy, with roses that bloom on schedule and hedges trimmed to geometric perfection. Her dinner parties are legendary in her social circle, with courses that arrive at precise intervals and wine pairings that impress even the most discerning guests. Everything in Helen's life is arranged to project an image of perfection. She comes from old money, the kind of family where appearances were everything. Her mother had been the same way, obsessed with how things looked to the neighbors, to the church, to the community. Helen inherited that obsession and refined it into an art form. And central to that image is her role as a grandmother. Helen sees grandmothering as a performance. The photo wall, the holiday gatherings, the birthday parties, they are all stages on which she plays her role. She is the doting grandmother, surrounded by adoring grandchildren, captured in hundreds of photos that she shares on her carefully curated Facebook page. But behind the performance, there is a hierarchy. Not all grandchildren are equal in Helen's eyes. Some matter more than others. Some deserve the spotlight, and some are better kept in the shadows. Helen has 5 grandchildren. Tyler is 12, the oldest, the firstborn grandchild who can do no wrong in Helen's eyes. He was the one who made her a grandmother, who gave her that identity she wears like a crown. She has been obsessed with him since the day he was born, tracking every milestone, celebrating every achievement, displaying every photo. Tyler's section of the wall is the largest, with photos from every year of his life, plus special shots from sports events, school plays, and family vacations. Sophie is 10, the first granddaughter, treated like a princess. Helen had desperately wanted a granddaughter after having 2 grandsons, and when Sophie arrived, she was overjoyed. Sophie gets special grandmother-granddaughter outings, shopping trips and tea parties and manicures that the boys are never invited to. Her section of the wall is almost as large as Tyler's, filled with portraits that capture her growing from a baby to a beautiful young girl. Emma is 8, sweet and quiet and adored. She is Michelle's second child, and while she does not get quite as much attention as Sophie, she is still firmly in Helen's good graces. Her photos are displayed prominently, updated regularly, admired frequently. Baby Olivia is 2, the newest addition, still at the age where everything she does is miraculous. Helen cannot stop talking about Olivia's first words, first steps, first everything. A new section of the wall has already been dedicated to her, with a gilded frame that must have cost $100. And then there is Mason, my son, who at 7 years old has never quite fit into the picture Helen wants to present. I have thought long and hard about why Helen treats Mason differently. He is not less lovable than his cousins. He is not less accomplished or less well-behaved. If anything, he is sweeter, more thoughtful, more eager to please than some of the others. The only difference I can identify is proximity. Tyler, Sophie, Emma, and Olivia all live within 15 minutes of Helen. Their parents bring them over constantly. They are fixtures at Helen's house, as familiar with her kitchen as their own. Helen sees them multiple times a week. She knows their schedules, their friends, their preferences. Mason lives 45 minutes away. We see Helen once a month, sometimes less if schedules get complicated. In between visits, Helen does not call Mason, does not ask about him, does not make any effort to bridge the distance. Out of sight, out of mind. But distance is an explanation, not an excuse. Other grandparents manage to love grandchildren who live far away. They video chat. They send letters. They make the drive. Helen does none of these things. She has decided that the grandchildren she sees regularly are the ones who matter, and Mason is simply not worth the effort. The photo wall in Helen's living room tells the story of her grandchildren, the story she wants to tell. She started it when Tyler was born, framing his first school photo and hanging it in a place of honor. Each year, she adds the newest photos, updating the display so that it remains current. Each grandchild has their own section of the wall, their own carefully chosen frame, their own moment in the spotlight. Everyone except Mason. When Mason started kindergarten, I gave Helen his school photo just like all the other parents had done with their children. It was a sweet picture, Mason in a little button-down shirt, his hair temporarily tamed, his smile bright and genuine. I was proud of that photo. I thought Helen would be too. I will find the perfect frame for it, she promised, taking the photo from my hands. Something special for my grandson. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. Despite the signs of favoritism I had noticed over the years, I wanted to think that when it came to something as public and permanent as the photo wall, Helen would do the right thing. A month later, the photo was not on the wall. I noticed immediately when we came for our next visit. I counted the photos, searched for Mason's face, and found nothing. When I asked about it, Helen said she was still looking for the right frame, something that would match the others. She had very specific aesthetic requirements, she explained. She could not just hang any frame. It had to be perfect. I accepted this explanation. Helen was particular about her home decor. It made sense that she would take her time. 3 months later, still nothing. The excuse this time was that she had been busy with the holidays. Between Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's, she simply had not had time to shop for frames. But she would get to it soon. I was starting to get frustrated, but I kept my concerns to myself. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe Helen really was just busy and particular and would eventually follow through. 6 months later, I decided to do some investigating. While Mason was playing in the backyard and Kevin was helping his father with a project in the garage, I wandered through Helen's house, casually opening drawers and cabinets. I told myself I was looking for a pen, but really, I was looking for Mason's photo. I found it in a kitchen drawer, buried under takeout menus and old coupons. The photo itself was slightly bent at one corner, creased from being shoved carelessly into the drawer. There was no frame anywhere in sight, broken or otherwise. I took a photo of the drawer with my phone. Evidence. Proof that my suspicions were correct. When I confronted Helen about it, she acted surprised that the photo was in the drawer. "Oh, I must have set it down there temporarily and forgotten about it," she said. "I bought a frame, but it broke when I was trying to hang it. I have been meaning to replace it." "When did the frame break?" "A few weeks ago. I just have not had time to get a new one." "Where are the pieces of the broken frame?" "I threw them away. They were sharp. I did not want anyone to get hurt." Her story was too convenient, too polished. I did not believe a word of it, but I could not prove she was lying. So I swallowed my anger and let it go. "I will take care of it," she said. "Do not worry." That was 2 years ago. 2 years of promises. 2 years of excuses. 2 years of my son's face hidden in a drawer while his cousins smiled from the wall. During those 2 years, I asked about the photo regularly. Every month or two, I would bring it up, hoping to hear that Helen had finally followed through. Each time, she had a new excuse. The frame I ordered was the wrong color. I had to return it. The store was out of the size I needed. I am waiting for them to restock. I found a frame I liked, but when I got it home, it did not match the others. I am thinking of rearranging the whole wall. I will hang Mason's photo when I do that. I want to wait for his next school photo so I can hang them both at once. It will be more efficient. The wall is running out of space. I need to figure out how to expand it before I can add more photos. Each excuse was plausible on its own, but taken together, they formed a pattern. A pattern of deliberate exclusion. A pattern of prioritizing every other grandchild while my son waited in a drawer. Meanwhile, the other grandchildren's photos were updated religiously. When Sophie got new school pictures, they were on the wall within a week. When Tyler won a trophy for baseball, a photo of him holding the trophy appeared in a brand new frame. When Emma was photographed for her dance recital, a second frame appeared with that image. When baby Olivia took her first professional portrait, it was hanging on the wall before we even heard about it. Helen found time to frame and hang those photos immediately. She found matching frames. She found wall space. All the obstacles that supposedly prevented her from displaying Mason's photo vanished when it came to the other grandchildren. Only Mason was missing. Only my son was deemed unworthy of display. I started documenting the discrepancy. Every time we visited, I took photos of the wall. I noted which pictures were new, which had been added since our last visit. I created a timeline of Helen's photo hanging activities, proving that she was actively maintaining and updating the display while ignoring Mason. Kevin did not want to believe that his mother was deliberately excluding our son. He made excuses for her, just as he had his whole life. "She probably just forgot," he would say. "You know how busy she is." She did not forget to hang Olivia's photo. That went up immediately. That is different. Olivia is a baby. People make a bigger deal about baby pictures. Mason's photo has been in a drawer for 2 years, Kevin. 2 years. That is not forgetting. That is a choice. He would get quiet when I said things like that. He knew I was right, but he did not want to admit it. Admitting it would mean acknowledging that his mother had a problem, that she treated our son differently than his cousins, that the woman who raised him was capable of such casual cruelty. I understood his reluctance. It is hard to see your parents clearly. It is hard to acknowledge their flaws, especially when those flaws hurt the people you love. But my loyalty was to Mason, not to Helen. My job was to protect my son, even if that meant forcing my husband to see uncomfortable truths. The day Mason asked about the photos was a turning point. We had come to Helen's house for Sunday dinner, a monthly tradition that I had grown to dread. Mason had been running through the living room when he stopped suddenly in front of the photo wall. He stood there for a long moment, studying the display, counting the faces, searching for his own. "Mommy, why am I not on the wall?" That question hit me like a physical blow. My son had noticed. Despite all my efforts to shield him from Helen's favoritism, he had finally seen the evidence for himself. He was old enough now to count the photos, to recognize the faces, to understand that everyone was there except him. Helen's excuse about the broken frame did not satisfy him. I could see it in his eyes, the doubt, the hurt, the beginning of understanding that something was wrong. After dinner, while Mason was playing in the backyard with Kevin, I confronted Helen. "It has been 2 years, I said. 2 years since I gave you Mason's kindergarten photo. 2 years of excuses. When are you actually going to hang his picture? I told you, the frame broke. I have been meaning to replace it." "Helen, I do not believe you. I do not believe the frame broke at all. I think you deliberately kept Mason's photo out of your display." Her face tightened. "That is ridiculous. Why would I do that?" "I do not know. That is what I am trying to understand. Why is my son the only grandchild not on your wall? I love Mason just as much as the others." "Then prove it. Put his picture up. Today. I will drive to the store right now and buy a frame myself if that is what it takes." "That is not necessary. I will handle it. You have been saying that for 2 years. I am done waiting." I left the living room and found my purse. I drove to the nearest home goods store, which fortunately was only 10 minutes away. I found a frame that matched the others on Helen's wall, silver with a simple, elegant border. I bought it, drove back, and presented it to Helen. "Here. No more excuses. You can hang his photo right now." Helen looked at the frame in my hands like it was a poisonous snake. "I said I would handle it. And I said I am done waiting. Where is Mason's photo? The one from the drawer." She hesitated, and in that hesitation I saw everything I needed to know. She did not want to hang Mason's picture. She never had. The broken frame was just an excuse to avoid doing something she found distasteful for reasons I could not fathom. "I think I might have moved it," she said finally. "I will have to look for it." "You moved it from the kitchen drawer." "I was organizing. Things got shuffled around. Then let us look for it together." I spent 20 minutes searching Helen's house for my son's kindergarten photo. The kitchen drawer where I had last seen it was now filled with different items. The office desk yielded nothing. The closets were no help. The photo had vanished. "I must have put it somewhere safe," Helen said, her voice innocent, her eyes anything but. "I will find it and hang it up. I promise." Another promise. Another excuse. Another delay. I drove home that night in furious silence. Kevin tried to calm me down, tried to suggest that maybe his mother really had misplaced the photo, that maybe this was all just an unfortunate series of coincidences. 2 years of coincidences? I snapped. 2 years of broken frames and misplaced photos and promises that never get kept? At what point do coincidences become a pattern? I am not defending her. I just think we should give her a chance to find the photo and fix this. I have given her 2 years of chances. How many more does she need? Kevin did not have an answer. A week passed. Then 2. Then a month. I asked Helen about the photo every time we saw her. Each time, she had a new excuse. She was still looking. She was sure it was around somewhere. She would find it soon. Finally, I stopped asking. Not because I had accepted the situation, but because I had made a decision. If Helen would not display Mason's photo, I would make sure the rest of the family saw him. Really saw him. Not just as a footnote at family gatherings, not just as Kevin and Jennifer's kid who lived across town. I would make sure everyone knew exactly who my son was and exactly how proud we were of him. I spent weeks putting together a digital photo album. I used a service called Shutterfly that allowed me to create a beautiful online album that could be viewed on any device, shared easily via link, and updated as often as I wanted. This was not going to be a simple collection of snapshots. This was going to be a comprehensive documentation of my son's life, a visual biography that would make it impossible for anyone to overlook him or forget him. I started with his birth. Photos from the hospital, Kevin holding him for the first time, our families meeting their newest member. I included the grainy ultrasound images, the pregnancy announcements, the nursery we had prepared with such excitement. Then I moved through his first year. Mason as a baby, round and pink and perfect. Mason learning to roll over, sitting up, crawling. Mason's first solid food, his face covered in mashed bananas. Mason at Christmas, surrounded by wrapping paper and barely understanding what was happening. Mason at Easter, too young for the egg hunt but dressed adorably anyway. I documented every year with the same thoroughness. First steps at 11 months. First words at 13 months. First day of daycare, crying in my arms as I handed him to the teacher. First birthday party, with a cake shaped like a teddy bear and frosting in his hair. I included milestones and ordinary moments alike. His first day of kindergarten and his 100th day of school. His soccer games and his piano recitals. Birthday parties and lazy Sundays. The time he learned to ride a bike. The time he caught his first fish. The time he read his first chapter book by himself and was so proud he carried it around for a week. I added captions to each photo, telling the story of my son's life. Mason's first steps, 11 months old. He was so determined to catch up to the dog that lived next door. He practiced for days, pulling himself up on furniture, wobbling on his chubby legs. And then one afternoon he just did it. Walked right across the living room like he had been doing it for years. Mason and Daddy building a snowman, winter 2019. He insisted the snowman needed a cowboy hat because snowmen probably get cold heads. We could not argue with that logic. Mason's kindergarten graduation. He was so proud of his little diploma that he slept with it for a week. He told everyone he met that he was a graduate now, which meant he was basically a grown-up. Mason's first piano recital, age 6. He practiced Mary Had a Little Lamb. So many times we all had it memorized. He was nervous on stage, but he played every note perfectly. When he finished, he looked at me in the audience, and his smile could have lit up the entire room. The album grew to over 200 photos, organized by year, each section telling a chapter of Mason's story. I included videos too, clips of him laughing, talking, showing off his latest accomplishments. A video of him explaining how dinosaurs went extinct, with the confident authority of a paleontologist despite being only 4 years old. A video of him singing happy birthday to himself because he was too excited to wait for anyone else to start. I worked on the album for 3 weeks, staying up late after Mason went to bed, poring through old photos, selecting the best ones, writing captions that captured not just what was happening but who Mason was in each moment. When it was finished, it was beautiful. It was comprehensive. It was a testament to 7 years of loving and raising an incredible child. Anyone who looked at this album would know Mason, would understand him, would see exactly why Kevin and I were so proud of him. And I shared it with every single member of Kevin's family except Helen. I made a list of everyone in the extended family. Kevin's brother David and his wife Sarah. Kevin's sister Michelle and her husband Tom. Aunts and uncles on both sides. Cousins who had known Kevin since childhood. Even some family friends who had been around so long they felt like relatives. I sent personalized emails to each of them, explaining that I wanted to share Mason's journey with the people who mattered most. I know we do not see everyone as often as we would like, I wrote, but I want you to know Mason, to watch him grow, to be part of his story even from a distance. This album is my way of sharing him with you. Everyone received the link. Everyone except Helen. The response was overwhelming. Family members called to tell me how beautiful the album was, how much they loved seeing Mason's journey, how precious all those moments were. Several people said they had not realized how little they knew about Mason, that the distance between our homes meant they rarely got to see him. "He is such a wonderful kid," David told me on the phone. "I cannot believe how much he has grown." The videos especially, hearing him talk and laugh, it made me realize I have been missing out on a whole person. "Thank you for sharing this." "Of course," I said. "Families should be able to watch each other's children grow up, even from afar." "You are right. Sarah and I were just saying we should make more of an effort to visit. Maybe this summer we can come up for a weekend." "That would be wonderful. Mason would love it." The album spread through the family like wildfire. People shared it with each other, added comments, sent messages praising Mason's accomplishments. David's wife Sarah commented on nearly every photo, leaving heart emojis and sweet messages. Michelle called to say her daughters had spent an hour watching Mason's videos and now wanted to FaceTime with him. For the first time, my son was seen. Really seen. Not as an afterthought, not as the grandchild who lived too far away to matter, but as a full, complete person with his own story. The family that had always seemed to overlook him was suddenly interested, engaged, connected. All because I had taken the time to show them who he was. It took Helen 3 weeks to find out about the album. She found out at a family gathering at Michelle's house. Everyone was there, which was unusual. Normally Kevin and I missed these events because of the distance. But this time we had made the drive because it was Michelle's 40th birthday and we wanted to be there for her. During the party, I overheard people talking about the album. Comments about how sweet Mason was, how much he had grown, how beautiful the photos were. Helen was standing nearby, her expression growing more confused with each passing minute. "What album is everyone talking about?" she finally asked. Michelle pulled out her phone and showed her. I watched from across the room as Helen scrolled through the photos, her face going through a series of emotions. Surprise, confusion, and then, unmistakably, anger. She found me in the kitchen a few minutes later, where I was helping David set out the birthday cake. "Can I speak with you privately?" she asked, her voice tight. We stepped out onto the back porch, away from the party noise. Helen closed the door behind us and turned to face me. "Why did I not receive the link to Mason's photo album?" "I am not sure what you mean." "Do not play dumb with me. Everyone in the family has seen this album except me." Michelle showed me on her phone. "David said he has been looking at it for weeks. Even Kevin's cousin in Florida has seen it. Why was I excluded?" I met her gaze steadily. "I must have forgotten to add you to the list. These things happen. You know how busy life gets." There was a long pause. Helen was not stupid. She knew exactly what I had done and why. I had used her own excuse against her, the same excuse she had given me for 2 years. "That is not funny, Jennifer." I was not trying to be funny. I was just sharing photos of my son with the people who wanted to see them. I assumed that since you could not find room on your wall for his picture, you were not interested in seeing more photos of him. That is completely different. Is it? You have had Mason's kindergarten photo for 2 years. 2 years of excuses about broken frames and matching colors and wall space. I figured you had enough photos of him. I did not want to burden you with more. Helen's face flushed red. You are being petty. I am being protective. My son noticed that he was not on your wall. He asked me why. Do you know how hard it was to explain to a 7-year-old why his grandmother displays all her grandchildren except him? I did not have a good answer for him. Do you? Helen was silent. That is what I thought. I love Mason, she said finally. Then why is his photo in a drawer? Why has it been there for 2 years? Why do Tyler and Sophie and Emma all get updated photos on the wall while Mason gets excuses? I told you, the frame broke. And in 2 years, you could not buy another frame? Helen, you bought a brand new frame for Olivia's portrait last month. I saw it on the wall. Gold leaf, custom engraving, probably cost over $100. But you cannot find a simple silver frame for Mason. She had no response to that. The evidence was too clear, too damning. When you decide that Mason deserves the same treatment as your other grandchildren, let me know. Until then, I do not see why I should go out of my way to include you in his life. I turned and walked back into the house, leaving Helen standing on the porch alone. I hung up before she could respond. The fallout was significant. Helen complained to Kevin, who tried to mediate between us. She called him multiple times over the following days, crying about how unfair I was being, how hurt she was to be excluded from Mason's life. She says you are trying to turn the family against her, Kevin reported. I am not turning anyone against her. I simply shared photos of our son with people who wanted to see them. Helen's exclusion from that list speaks for itself. She is really upset, Jennifer. Good. Maybe now she understands how Mason feels every time he visits her house and sees his cousins on the wall, but not himself. Kevin struggled with this. He was caught between his wife and his mother, between the woman he had chosen and the woman who had raised him. It was not a comfortable position. I am not asking you to choose sides, I told him. I am asking you to acknowledge what your mother has been doing. For 2 years, she has deliberately excluded our son from her photo wall while including everyone else. That is not a broken frame. That is a choice. I know. Then stop making excuses for her. Stop acting like I am the villain here. Your mother hurt our son. She has been hurting him for years, in small ways that add up. The missing photo is just the most visible example. Kevin nodded slowly. You are right. I have been making excuses for her. I did not want to see it. But you see it now? I see it now. That conversation was a turning point. Kevin stopped defending his mother and started supporting me. When Helen called to complain, he told her that I was right and that she needed to take responsibility for her actions. When she tried to paint me as the bad guy to other family members, Kevin corrected the narrative. Helen complained to her other children too, hoping for sympathy. She found surprisingly little. David told her that Jennifer had a point. Michelle said she had noticed the missing photo too and wondered about it for years. I always thought it was strange that Mason was not on your wall, Michelle admitted during a phone call that Kevin overheard. All the other grandkids are there. It is hard not to notice who is missing. I was going to hang it, Helen protested. The frame broke. Mom, that was 2 years ago. You hung 3 new photos for Olivia in that time. Do not pretend this is about a frame. For the first time, Helen's favoritism was out in the open. People were talking about it. People were questioning her. The carefully constructed image of the perfect grandmother was cracking, and everyone could see what was underneath. She did not like that at all. 2 weeks after my phone call with Helen, Kevin came home with news. My mother wants to apologize. She says she found Mason's photo and she wants to hang it on the wall while we watch. She is inviting us for dinner on Saturday. She found it? After all this time? Apparently, it was in a box in the attic. She says she must have put it there during some cleaning and forgotten about it. Convenient. Jennifer, please. She is trying. Can we at least give her a chance? I did not believe for a second that Helen had suddenly located a photo that had been mysteriously missing for months. The last time I had seen it, it was in the kitchen drawer. Now it was supposedly in the attic? The story did not add up. I suspected she had simply printed a new copy, that the original was long gone, discarded or destroyed in a moment of petty cruelty that she now regretted. Or perhaps she had found it somewhere else entirely and was lying about the attic to make herself look less guilty. But I agreed to go to dinner because Mason deserved to see his photo on his grandmother's wall, regardless of how we got there. This was not about me being right or Helen being wrong. This was about my son feeling included, valued, seen. "Fine," I said. "We will go. But I am watching her closely. If this is some kind of performance and she goes right back to ignoring Mason afterward, we are done." I think she is sincere this time. The whole family has been talking about the photo album. She knows she messed up. She has known she messed up for 2 years. The question is whether public embarrassment is enough to make her actually change. We arrived on Saturday evening to find the house immaculate as always. Helen had gone all out with dinner, preparing Mason's favorite meal, chicken parmesan with extra cheese and garlic bread. She had even baked a chocolate cake for dessert, decorated with little sugar flowers that must have taken hours. Helen greeted us at the door, her smile wide and welcoming. She hugged Kevin, then me, and then she knelt down to Mason's level. "Mason, sweetheart, I am so happy you are here. I have something special to show you." Mason looked at me uncertainly. He was not used to this much attention from his grandmother. Usually when we visited, Helen greeted him briefly and then focused on whatever other grandchildren were present. "It is okay," I told him. "Go see what Grandma wants to show you." Helen greeted us warmly, hugging Mason with what appeared to be genuine affection. She held him a little longer than usual, and when she pulled back, I thought I saw tears in her eyes. She led us to the living room and made a show of presenting a small package wrapped in tissue paper. "I found this in the attic, Mason. I am so sorry it took me so long. Would you like to help me hang it?" Mason's eyes lit up with cautious hope. He took the package and carefully unwrapped it to reveal his kindergarten photo in a beautiful silver frame. The frame was clearly new, still had a price sticker on the back that Helen had forgotten to remove. But the photo inside was the original, slightly bent at one corner from its time in the drawer. "Is this really going on the wall?" Mason asked. "For real this time?" "For real this time. Right next to your cousin's, where it belongs." Helen lifted Mason up so he could place the photo on an empty hook she had apparently installed for this purpose. The hook was right in the center of the wall, between Tyler's photos and Sophie's, in a position of honor that Mason had never occupied before. He positioned it carefully, making sure it was straight, adjusting it 3 times before he was satisfied. His face was glowing with pride, with relief, with the kind of joy that comes from finally being included after years of exclusion. "I am on the wall now," he said. "Just like everyone else." "Just like everyone else," Helen agreed. Mason climbed down from Helen's arms and stood back to admire his photo. He stared at it for a long time, as if he could not quite believe it was real. "It looks good there," he said finally. "It looks like it belongs." "It does belong," Helen said. "You belong. I am sorry it took me so long to show you that." I watched this scene with mixed emotions. I was glad Mason was getting what he deserved. I was glad he would no longer have to wonder why his grandmother did not display his picture. I was glad to see the joy on his face, the sense of belonging that had been denied him for so long. But I was also aware that this moment should have happened 2 years ago. That it had taken public embarrassment and family pressure to make Helen do what she should have done willingly from the start. That my son had spent 2 years questioning his worth because his grandmother could not be bothered to buy a frame. The joy was real, but it was tinged with sadness. Mason should never have had to wait this long. After Mason ran off to play, I found a moment alone with Helen. "Thank you for doing this," I said. "It means a lot to him." "You made your point, Jennifer. There was no need to involve the whole family." "There was every need. Mason is part of this family. He deserves to be treated like it." I never said he did not. You did not have to say it. Your actions said it for you. 2 years of excuses. 2 years of broken promises. 2 years of my son wondering why his grandmother did not love him enough to hang his picture. Helen's face flushed. I love Mason. Then show him. Consistently. Not just when you are shamed into it. Put up his new school pictures as quickly as you put up the others. Remember his birthday without reminders. Treat him the same way you treat Tyler and Sophie and Emma. That is what love looks like in action. I will try. Do not try. Do. She did not respond, but I could see that my words had landed. Whether they would make a lasting difference, only time would tell. In the months that followed, I watched Helen carefully. She was better, I had to admit. Mason's first grade photo went up on the wall within a week of her receiving it. She called to thank us for sending it, made a point of mentioning how handsome he looked, asked questions about his school year. She remembered his birthday without prompting. A package arrived in the mail a week before the date, containing not just a gift card like previous years, but a carefully chosen present, a Lego set that matched his current interests. There was a card too, handwritten, filled with genuine sentiments. Dear Mason, I hope your 8th birthday is wonderful. I am so proud of the young man you are becoming. I love watching you grow. Love always, Grandma. It was such a simple thing, a birthday card with real words instead of a generic signature. But it meant everything because it showed that Helen was paying attention. That she knew who Mason was, what he liked, what mattered to him. She made more of an effort to engage with him during family gatherings. Instead of focusing exclusively on the grandchildren who lived nearby, she sought Mason out for conversations. She asked about his friends, his hobbies, his favorite books. She listened to his answers instead of nodding distractedly while looking for Tyler or Sophie. It was not perfect. Old habits die hard, and there were still moments when I caught Helen favoring her other grandchildren. An extra portion of dessert for Tyler. A special toy hidden in Sophie's overnight bag. Comments about how talented Emma was that were not matched by similar praise for Mason. But the egregious stuff had stopped. The deliberate exclusion. The broken promises. The drawer full of forgotten photos. Helen had learned that her favoritism would not be tolerated, and she adjusted her behavior accordingly. I do not know if her heart truly changed or if she was simply performing better. I suspect the latter. Helen was a woman of appearances, after all, and the appearance of treating all grandchildren equally was now important to her image. The family was watching. The family was judging. She could not afford to be seen as the grandmother who played favorites. But even if her motivation was image rather than love, the result was the same. Mason was being treated better. He felt included. He no longer questioned whether his grandmother loved him. That was what mattered. Mason himself noticed the change. "Grandma is nicer to me now," he told me one day after we returned from a visit. "She asks me about school and stuff. She did not used to do that. I am glad, sweetheart. Everyone should feel special at their grandmother's house. Why did she not ask before?" Sometimes grown-ups need reminders about what is important. Grandma got a reminder. From you, from me, and from the rest of the family. We all reminded her that you are just as important as your cousins. Is that why you made the photo album? To remind everyone. I was surprised by his perceptiveness. I had not realized he understood the connection between the album and Helen's changed behavior. Partly, I admitted. I wanted people to see you. Really see you, not just as Kevin and Jennifer's kid who lives far away, but as you. A whole person with your own story. Did it work? It did. Uncle David calls more now. Aunt Michelle wants to do video chats. And Grandma finally put your picture on the wall. Mason nodded, processing this. So the album was like a magic spell that made people pay attention? I laughed. Something like that. Except the magic was just showing them who you are. You are pretty amazing, you know. People just needed to see it. Thanks, Mom. He hugged me, a spontaneous gesture of affection that made all the conflict worth it. Thank you for making them see me. Always, sweetheart. That is my job. Mason nodded, accepting this explanation. He was 7 years old, still young enough to forgive easily, still innocent enough to believe in second chances. I hoped Helen would not waste this one. The digital photo album I created remains online to this day. I update it every few months with new pictures, new milestones, new moments from Mason's life. What started as an act of defiance has become a family tradition. I still share it with the whole family, including Helen now that she has earned her way back into our good graces. Everyone looks forward to the updates. David and Sarah comment on every new addition. Michelle sends the links to her daughters so they can keep up with their cousin. Even Kevin's elderly aunts have learned how to view the album on their phones. Helen never mentions the album directly. She never comments on the photos or sends messages about specific images. But I know she looks at it, because once, during a visit, she referenced a picture she could only have seen there. Mason looks so happy in his soccer uniform, she said. The one with the blue stripes. Number 7, right? You saw that photo? I have seen all the photos, Jennifer. I look at them every week. She did not say more, but that admission meant something. It meant that despite everything, she cared about knowing her grandson. She just had not known how to show it until I forced the issue. Maybe that is what family is sometimes. Not people who naturally do the right thing, but people who can be pushed toward the right thing when someone cares enough to push. Mason is 9 years old now. His photo wall at Helen's house has expanded to include 3 pictures: kindergarten, 1st grade, and 2nd grade. Each one in a matching frame. Each one displayed with the same prominence as his cousin's photos. He no longer counts the pictures when we visit. He no longer searches for his face among the others. He knows he is there. He knows he belongs. That security, that sense of being valued, is written in the way he moves through Helen's house now, comfortable and confident rather than hesitant and watchful. The other day, we were at Helen's for a family gathering, and Mason was playing with his cousins in the backyard. I watched them from the kitchen window, Tyler and Sophie and Emma and Mason, for children running and laughing and being kids together. There was no hierarchy in their play. No one was excluded or left out. They were just family. Helen came to stand beside me at the window. He fits in now, she said quietly. I can see it. He is not on the outside anymore. No, he is not. I did that to him, did I not? I made him feel like he was on the outside. It was the closest Helen had ever come to a real apology. Not the defensive justifications she had offered before, but an actual acknowledgement of harm. Yes, I said. You did. I am sorry, Jennifer. I know that does not fix anything. But I am sorry. It does not fix it. But it helps. What helps more is what you have been doing since. The pictures. The birthday cards. The attention. That is what Mason needs. I am trying. I know you are. We stood there in silence, watching the children play, 2 women who would probably never be friends, but who had found a way to coexist for the sake of the people they both loved. It should not have taken a family-wide photo album and a confrontation to make this happen. Helen should have hung Mason's picture willingly, should have seen him as worthy of display without needing to be shamed into it. But motherhood is not about how things should be. It is about how things are. It is about protecting your child in a world that does not always treat him fairly, even when the unfairness comes from his own grandmother. I protected Mason. I fought for his place on that wall. I made sure the whole family knew who he was and how much he mattered. I refuse to accept excuses and broken promises. I refuse to let my son be invisible. That is what a mother does. She fights. She advocates. She refuses to let her child be overlooked or dismissed. And now, when Mason walks into his grandmother's house, he sees his own face smiling back at him from the wall. He sees proof that he belongs. He sees evidence that he is loved. Looking back, I sometimes wonder if I handled the situation the right way. Was creating the album and excluding Helen too petty? Should I have confronted her more directly earlier? Should I have involved Kevin more from the beginning? I do not have clear answers to those questions. I did what felt right in the moment, what seemed necessary to protect my child. Maybe there was a better way. But the result is what matters, and the result is a grandson who finally feels seen by his grandmother. Some people might say I should have just let it go. That a photo on a wall is not worth family conflict. That I made a mountain out of a molehill. But they did not see Mason's face when he asked why he was not on the wall. They did not hear the hurt in his voice, the confusion, the dawning realization that his grandmother treated him differently than his cousins. They did not watch a 7-year-old try to understand why he was not good enough to be displayed. Children notice everything. They may not have the words to express it, but they feel the slights, the exclusions, the subtle messages that tell them where they rank. Mason felt it every time he visited Helen's house and saw his cousins' faces but not his own. That feeling was not a molehill. That feeling was the foundation of his self-worth being chipped away, one visit at a time. I was not willing to let that continue. I was not willing to sacrifice my son's sense of belonging for the sake of keeping the peace. I was not willing to be the mother who looked the other way while her child was diminished. And because I was not willing, Mason now knows what it feels like to be valued. He knows what it feels like to have a mother who will fight for him. He knows that his place in the world is not dependent on other people's willingness to see him. That is worth every awkward conversation and every family conflict. That is worth everything. Thank you for listening to my journey of discovering what motherhood truly means. I have left 2 more stories on your screen, each from mothers who learned that protecting a child can mean standing alone against those once called family. Choose the one that speaks to you. And if you want to join a community of parents who fight for their children, that notification bell is waiting. Until tomorrow, remember, blood connects us, but a mother's love protects us.